Here is a factory in the heart of industrial Britain, a planned response to the world's demand for bicycles. This huge organization is controlled from the administrative offices. A most important one is the drawing office, where a bicycle starts its life. We'll go into the chief designer's office and hear him tell two visitors just how a bicycle is made.
I could go miles and miles on one of these, Father.
So you should. There's 100 years of bicycle manufacture behind that model. It's our latest type. Strong, reliable, yet light in weight. Rust and weatherproof, comfortable to ride and easy to steer.
I'd like one of these, Father.
Well, I could do a good many miles with it myself, even at my age.
Further than you could on that?
Listen, I'm not quite as old as all that. But this was used in my great-grandfather's day.
Yes, that's the old penny farthing of 100 years ago. Now, this one was used not so very long ago. It was called a safety model because both the wheels were the same size, and the rider sat balanced between them and nearer to the ground.
And to think that from these old machines you've got this up-to-date model.
Yes. Now, this is the design from which our latest model is built. Every part is first carefully drawn out in the greatest detail so that the plans can be given to the foreman in charge of each stage of production. We have some of them here.
Well, I'd like to know how you turn all these lines and circles on paper into a finished bicycle.
Well, but before we can do that, we must have the right materials from which to make it.
Let's look in the factory and see for ourselves. Here is the raw material from which our bicycle is made. Steel is used because it is both strong and light in weight. Before it is turned into the many parts we require, tests are made in the firm's laboratory. In this apparatus, a sample of the steel is being submitted to great heat to ensure that it is of the high quality required and that it will stand up to the strain of manufacture. In another test, a piece of the steel is placed in this machine, which subjects it to a strain greatly in excess of anything it will have to undergo when it becomes part of a bicycle. After testing, it is passed for manufacture.
The steel can now be made into the many different parts of our bicycle, each requiring the greatest skill in manufacture.
I see.
The frame is the basis to which all the other parts will be attached. So let's see how it's made.
The frame is made light and strong by using steel tubes. The tubing is made by this machine. Strips of steel are fed into one end and turned into a tubular shape by heavy rollers. The joint is sealed by this powerful flame. As the finished tube comes out of the machine, it is cut to the required lengths.
How are the tubes held together to form the frame?
Well, they're securely jointed together by these bracket pieces. Now, this bottom bracket
is made from a circular piece of steel. This flat piece of metal undergoes a series of pressings, the first operation shaping it like this. A second pressing stretches it into this shape. These gradual pressings ensure that the steel does not break or lose strength. After the blocked end has been cut off, another pressing raises these humps. Here the operation is carried a step further. A final pressing shapes the bracket like this. By this method the bracket is made free of joints, thus ensuring lightness and strength. Other pieces are now pressed into the bracket. The various parts are put into a tool called a jig. The whole assembly is then placed between the jaws of this powerful press. After several pressings and heating operations, the bracket comes out in its final form, specially designed to give rigidity and strength. The frame of our bicycle can now be built up. The tubes are placed into position and joined together by the bracket pieces. These are drilled and pegged into position, ready for brazing in the furnace. In the furnace, the frame is subjected to great heat. After treatment in the furnace, the frame is placed in this holder to cool. It is then cleaned by immersion in a bath of special solution. The surplus brass used during the brazing is removed by dipping the frame in a second bath. In this bath, an electrical process cleans off the brass without damage to the steel frame.
Well, I never thought so much care and trouble were required in the making of a bicycle frame. I suppose this part here...
There's a front fork.
Yeah, this part is assembled in much the same way.
Yes, it's built up with steel tubes, but the joints are welded in a different way from those on the frame.
Why is that?
Well, the front fork has to take all the knocks from rough roads, so its joints must be made extra strong.
The front fork is designed in one piece to add to its strength. The extra strengthening of the fork is effected by treatment in the furnace. After treatment, the frame is polished by hand with a fine emery cloth. The front fork and backstay are polished by holding them against emery wheels. This careful polishing ensures that when the enamelling is done, the enamel will go on evenly and smoothly. Before enamelling, the parts must be made rust-proof. This is done by passing them through this chamber, where they undergo a special treatment. Here the parts are emerging after treatment, which has given them a rust-proof surface and an ideal basis for the enamel. The frames and forks are now dipped in tanks of enamel. This gives the bicycle its luster and shine and enables it to keep its new appearance for a long time. The enameled frame is given a distinctive finish by the addition of colored lines. This lining is done by clipping guide rods to the tubes and using a small roller automatically fed with color.
The frame is now ready, but many other parts are required to make the finished bicycle.
How about the handlebars?
Yes, they must be very carefully designed so that the rider can sit and steer in comfort.
That's why handlebars are usually bent. How do they do that?
They are shaped on this machine, which bends the tubing to a set design. After bending, they are plated, a process effected by submerging the handlebars in a vat containing a solution through which an electric current is passed. They are then polished on this machine, which gives them their bright appearance. This plating process not only makes the handlebars impervious to weather, but if the bars are cleaned regularly, they will keep their bright appearance a long time. An important accessory to a bicycle are the mudguards. These are made by this machine, which turns flat strip steel into the required shape and size in one operation. The stays which hold the mudguards to the bicycle are electrically welded on.
Quite a lot of operations, aren't there?
Yes, but various small parts of our bicycles, such as hubs, chain wheels, and pedal cranks, still remain to be made.
Here, red-hot bars of steel are being forged. This machine shapes and cuts them to the sizes required. Here is a roughly forged pedal crank. Before it is ready for the bicycle, it must undergo many operations. Provision is made here for the crank spindle hole. The rough crank is placed in this machine, where it is ground down to the correct size. When the machine is set in motion, a special fluid is poured on the crank as a lubricant and cooler. After the face sides have been ground, the crank spindle and cotter pin holes are bored. These machines are automatically set for this purpose. Here are the holes which have been bored. Next, the pedal crank hole has to be bored and threaded. The gear wheel, which carries the chain to the rear wheel, is made from a flat piece of steel. First, it is pressed like this. A second pressing gives us this. A third, this. It is then clamped into another machine, which cuts out the teeth on which the chain will ride. The gear wheel is then fitted to the pedal crank. Here we see the combined unit fitted to the bicycle.
All the moving parts of our bicycle must work as smoothly as possible.
So the moving parts, such as the wheel hubs, are filled with little steel balls and packed with grease to give effortless running. This worker can fill over 1,000 hubs in an 8-hour day. If a 3-speed gear is fitted, the teeth for the main part must be very accurately cut, so that they will work easily and without noise. The teeth of the cutter which makes this part are the same shape as the finished gear teeth, which are made by cutter and metal slowly revolving against each other. This results in the edge being cut into teeth, the finished job being like this. Certain moving parts of our bicycle must be made extra strong, so they are put into a container and covered with a composition of clay and sand. The container is then placed into a furnace, where the parts undergo a baking process, giving them a very strong outer skin. As the container becomes white hot, the parts are hardened. The hardness of the skin is tested by these special machines, which record the amount of pressure the new surface will stand without breaking.
Very interesting.
How about the wheels?
Oh, they're made up of many different parts. The hub, spokes, the rim.
The building up of the wheels starts with the manufacture of the spokes, which are made from rustless wire. This machine takes the wire, forms and bends a head on one end, cuts it to length, and puts a thread on each spoke ready for fitting to the wheel. The spokes are first fitted to the hub, and then laced into the rim. After being hand tightened, the spokes are firmly secured to the rim. When this is done, an inspector makes sure that each wheel runs true. His indicator tells him which spokes require tightening or loosening. The tires are now fitted and blown up. These girls are so expert that they can fit a tire and a tube in 50 seconds.
All the parts having now been manufactured, we assemble them into a bicycle.
Conveyor belts carry the various parts from their respective workshops to the main assembly line. This man takes the frame to his bench and fits the crank spindle, ball race hubs, and gear wheel. That done, the back stay is fitted. With forks and mud guards attached, the assembly is put on the conveyor belt and carried to another section in the assembly line. To effect an easy fitting of wheels, a junior worker takes the frame to a lower travelling belt. The wheels are then fitted by skilled workers. Handlebars and brakes are the next additions, after which they are checked and adjusted. Each stage of the assembly is marked off on a progress card. The fitting of saddles and tool bags completes the assembly. The bicycle is now ready for its final inspection. It then goes to a clearing department ready for dispatch to all parts of the world.
These constant examinations are the manufacturer's guarantee of safety.
So that's how a bicycle is made.
Yes. Careful designing, reliable materials, and expert craftsmanship in every stage of manufacture turn out a British bicycle second to none.
What about the other models? Boys' racing cycles. Ladies, the ones with the baskets in front. Like Mother uses for shopping.
Well, those models are manufactured in the same way.
There are bicycles for all purposes, suitable for men, women, boys and girls. Here are some of them being taken out for a test run by the firm's test riders. A bicycle is a comfortable and cheap way of getting about, a great boon to man. Ideal for shopping, easy to park, handy for work, a faithful friend ever ready to take tired workers back home, and after work to bring relaxation, health and happiness.